Chaps, we've got Ben, we've got Ian, and we've got Cheryl. We're going to be talking about something what keeps coming up. And I'd like to say, actually, Man Up started, triggered the topic of, as soon as somebody talks about their mental health, or not necessarily mental health, when with men, they don't normally know what's wrong with them. They know something's wrong, but they don't know what's wrong with them. They don't know if they're anxious, they're depressed, or whatever else. But as soon as they're like, just lost a little bit of shit, we put our white coats on, start diagnosing them and saying, oh, how can we fix it? How can we do this? How can we do that? And I think when it comes down to the terminology of mental health or life wobbles, it's the only one where people automatically try and jump to try and fix it for that person. If somebody's been diagnosed with cancer, it's like, oh shit, what did the doctor say? What are they going to do? Blah, blah, blah. Basically, when are you going to die, which is basically the hidden meaning, isn't it? And all this kind of stuff. So, but it is though, isn't it? It's that thing of like, what have the doctors said going forwards? If you've broken a leg, let's get you straight to somebody who can, let's get you straight to the hospital, blah, blah, blah. But mental health is like that hidden thing of just, how do we fix it? Oh, is everything okay? And we forget who we are as people, and we turn into that doctor nurse mode. And it's just like, why? Cheryl, I know straight away you're going to have something to say. Go on.
I think it's, well, there's 2 points I would make. It's a social media issue because we've all become pop psychologists. If you go on TikTok, it tells you everything about, and by the way, apologies for all the dogs in the background. I've turned into crazy dog.
No, you're good.
I think everybody thinks they know a little bit about something, and I think sometimes, what's the saying, like small information can be dangerous, and that's what we all are. We're walking, talking, and we've all got experience ourselves, so we think what happens to us is what happens to everybody. And then the other thing I was going to say, just to crack this open, is I think it's a typically female tendency, what you're talking about there, rather than a male tendency.
They're very attentive.
Sorry?
I said they're very attentive, aren't
they? They are, and I think this is where it can sometimes go over the line. Tell me what you're thinking about. What's happening for you? How did that feel? You know, that almost sort of let me crack open your head with a sledgehammer, crawl inside and take up space there. And I say that as a woman who has the tendency to do that with a man, my partner, who's almost mute. So I've had to go, this is not mine to fix. He doesn't need fixing. And I've had to learn myself how to step back and go, he's not a problem that needs fixing by me. He's perfect in his own right. But the tendency is for females to step in and go, I'll fix this one.
Yeah, it's a tricky one, because when you said that immediately, I think for me, if somebody starts, you know, having a bit of a shit day, or if I sort of have an inkling that there might be something going on, for me, I'm already in that headset of like, right, okay, do I need to approach this? Because there's a very, very strong opinion at the moment with distinguishing what could be mental health and what could just be someone having an off day, or could be having, you know, a couple of days of anxiety for whatever reason. Regardless, obviously, I do feel like it should be spoken about to a degree, absolutely. But I think it's a conversation that the person from the other side have to approach very, very differently, because we don't want to try and encourage that person or try and get it in their head that there might actually be something going on, something a lot deeper than there might actually be. It could just be something minuscule, you know, it could be something very, very small. And I think in our heads, we go through the box ticking exercise and we're like, oh, right, okay, yeah, you feel this, you know, you're doing that. Maybe you've got depression. And then they're like, oh, actually, yeah, maybe I have. And there could actually be like, you know, genuinely nothing that deep. And it couldn't be, you know, anything more than just having a really, really bad day. So I'm very, very cautious when I sort of try and speak to people if they are having a shit day, or if, like, you know, I try and analyze it a little bit first. Unfortunately, I am one of those people that do sort of jump to the attention of others. And I'm like, what's going on? You know, feel free to speak to me. And I do try, and I'm guilty of digging for it as well, if I'm quite honest. You know, I do want to try and get people to open up a little bit. But I'm just, yeah, I'm on the fence about that one. I'm just very, very cautious about how, from the other side, that we're best to approach these people without forcing mental illness on them. If that makes sense.
I think certainly from my perspective, I think one of the key things is what that next question is. Like, what's that next question with that individual? And that's been one of the hardest things I've had to deal with, because again, similar to Cheryl, I just go into into fix-it mode, plan, what can I do to help? How do we get through this? What's the next step? And sometimes that next step's got to be the question, like, what can I do to help? And sometimes there isn't anything. And if somebody says there isn't anything I can do to help, sometimes you need to respect that and almost kind of back off and say, okay, well, right now there's nothing I can do to help, is what they're effectively saying. That doesn't mean there isn't something you can do to help in 2-3 hours time, 2 days time, however long. But it's that tendency to just jump in and try and fix, solve, and kind of work through problems, which is what we're almost conditioned to do. Like Cheryl said, it's like social media is great with finding solutions to stuff. If we're looking like the marketing space, it's about finding solutions to problems, being in businesses, finding solutions to problems, being an employee, finding solutions to problems. So we're conditioned that, even education, like we're conditioned to do that from a very, very early age. And it's hard to do that. Like for me, my partner, when she struggled, and she's like, sometimes she said, I don't need you to fix this, I just need you to listen.
Yeah.
And that it was an absolute game changer for me, but it didn't happen instantly, because I had to be reminded of that on a few occasions. I just need you to listen. I just need you to listen. In my head, I'm going, we can do this, we can do that, we can do the other. Why haven't you tried this? Why haven't you tried the other? But that's not what that person needs. Sometimes they just need you to listen. Sometimes they need you to do nothing at all. Sometimes they do want some extra input. And I think it's that next question is the important bit.
Can I?
Can I-
Oh, sorry.
Can I also? I'm just listening. I'm just listening to whatever you say. So with it sounds like Cheryl and Ian, you both had to learn not to. Were you naggers? And let me give context, because one of the things, what not so much now, but one of the things what I've noticed over and over again, especially in a straight relationship, is, well, I won't tell my missus anything, because if I do, she'll keep nagging at me. And actually, reading between the lines, actually, sometimes it's not nagging. It's just that the bloke's just shutting them down so much that they and the woman's just rightly so, because they care.
Mm.
But there is that skill, isn't there? I think you both said it, of just actually learning when to shut up and just go, just listen. Am I making sense?
Making perfect sense. I would say, just going back to what Ian said, and I think it links in with what you're saying anyway, it's almost about the communication of, what's my role here today? So,
oh, I like that. That'd be a quote for Man Up going forward. Thank you.
Yeah, that's the title of this video.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah.
but it is exactly that, and it's that with all. So, like you know, within a leadership capacity, within a performance management, within whatever, it's like we all wear different roles. And within the work I do, I ask people to sort of write out, what are your roles, and you'll be shocked at how many you have. So you're a mother, you're a father, you're a sister, a brother, you're a boss, you're a friend, you're a whatever. You're a villain to some people, you're a hero to some people, you're a listener. Whenever you write all their roles down and you think about the hats you wear all day long, when somebody has some mental health issue or concern, what capacity are you turning up as, and what do they need from you? And I think when you start to establish that, it's really similar to what you were saying about what, like, I don't need you to fix this. It's in humanity to want to help solve things. That's what we do. We have the brain capacity to find solutions to problems and to communicate those. So it's within us, but you've got to be able to communicate in your society as well, and go, what do I need to do for you here today, or what don't I need to do, or what more or less can I do? So for me, it's about having that. If you're going to ask any question, to Ian's point about it's what question comes next, it's ask that question first and let them be the boss of where this goes. And the one thing I'd say about on the nagging front, yes, it might come from care. And this is what I say to women that I work with. And I say women because it tends to be female. And that's what I said at the very beginning. And, is it Benjamin? I didn't know to call you Ben then, or Benjamin. How rude of me.
Feel free, however, whatever.
You put Benjamin there. So Benjamin said about it's nurturing, it's from care. It is, but that doesn't mean it's helpful.
Yeah.
Just because it comes from a place of good doesn't mean it's doing good. So work out what is needed from you as an individual and respect somebody else's boundaries. Yeah. And if somebody says, when you said, are you a nagger, the reason I was like, is because I don't think I necessarily am in terms of a health or a mental health. I probably am with a physical health. So I'm like, go to the doctors, your knees hurt. But I am a nagger in other ways, I would say, but that's just because I'm a action person. So if I say I'm going to do something, for me, I go and do it. And I struggle with people that don't, even though they know it will help them. But when it comes to mental health, and actual, again, Benjamin, you said to differentiate between that, is this mental health or is it just a bad day? Because people have bad days that are horrific. People have bad months that are horrific. Doesn't mean they've got mental health. But when it is that sort of situation, sometimes people just need to sit with it and don't know what the next steps are, and that's okay too. We're in a world of distraction, a world of moving on, a world of labeling feelings as good and bad, when actually, you know, some of the best things have come out of me feeling shit. You're like, and not trying to just push it on, like sitting with it and going, yeah, this hurts.
Yeah,
it really hurts.
Yeah, but
I think
it goes back to what Ben or Benjamin, actually, we'll keep the flow going. I think it is also not everything is mental health illness or mental health problems, isn't it? It's just the amount of times, I don't know, like I've literally dragged Faye out of bed just saying, right, okay, let's not go into that pity party thing. Let's go for a walk. And she's like, no, and all this kind of stuff. And let's get a Just Eat. And I was like, no, because I know you're going to hate yourself this time tomorrow. You're going to hate yourself later for it. Let's go for a walk. And actually, after that walk, everything's fine. We don't have to talk about it ever again. It's sometimes about nipping that. It's about nipping that in the bud early, isn't it?
If the shoe was on the other foot, though, would you be equally as stubborn? Because, and the reason I say that is because
I would do.
And the reason I say that is because I was just thinking back to sort of my earlier years as an adult, when I grew up with more friends than what I have now, and especially with people that are in relationships. I found it very, very easy when I had a lack of experience to offer people advice that I probably wouldn't take myself, that I probably wouldn't, act on. I'd be quite happy to sit down with somebody for an hour on a Friday after a few drinks and a strongbow, and be like, oh, this is what you need to do, and try and fix all their problems, knowing full well that I'd walk away and go, I wouldn't do that.
Mate, I run a charity and I've been burnt out twice. I'm literally in therapy because of this therapy, not just because of this charity and all sorts. So we all fall foul, don't we? Practicing not practicing what we preach. It's the way it is. But the good thing is, even with Faye's like, I'm going wild camping tomorrow from Thursday to Sunday, because she's just like, just get out of there, just go away. Because that it's just, for me, it means just going away. It just means I can just reset my brain. And when I come back, I actually know what's actually been pissing me off in the first place.
But you know what I think you've just described there, and when you said this is what I said to Faye and is you've described understanding the other person's needs.
Yeah.
And maybe reminding them of what will help them and serve them when they can't see it themselves. And the reason why I can identify that is because, again, John and I, nature's one of my biggest healers. But sometimes when you're just in a dark place, and healthy food like green leafy vegetables is my go-to place. But I'm exactly the same. When I'm in that place, I'm like, what the world? I want to have like lots of sugar and shut the curtains. And John used to say similar things to me, and I'd be like, what? Like, you don't. And then one day I thought about it and I thought, actually, it's everything that's right, and it's everything I need. So why am I rejecting it? And this was what came up for me. It was his delivery. The content was bang on. So I sat down with him and had a conversation. I said, you know what you said the other week about blah, 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 blah. I said, you're absolutely right. You were right. I need you to know that you were right. But what bristled was the way you said it to me, made me feel like a problem, made me feel like I was a burden in the relationship. And I know you didn't mean that because you love me so much. I know you do. But what might help, I said, and I literally gave him a way that would get into my brain, is if you said to me, John, Gerald, do you remember that time when you said to me that I seem to be able to see things that would be able to help, and at times when you couldn't? This is one of those times, and I'm just doing it because I care about you. So, because instantly I'll go, oh, okay, yeah, okay, I see why you're doing this. I'm not a problem. I'm doing it because you love me and you know me so well. And it changed everything. And I've never responded badly to him supporting me again, because he almost gave me the context. I gave him the context to give back to me.
Yeah.
I know that might sound silly, but it was just that extra level of me saying, I'm not a burden, am I? And I'm going, absolutely not. And me going, this is because you love me, isn't it? Absolutely, yes. Right, then that's acceptable.
I can 100% relate to that. Like
Yeah.
we've had some pretty transformative experiences with Amy's mental health over the last few weeks, and there's a few things that kind of stuck out for me. Like she regularly has counselling, tried antidepressants, tried all kinds of different stuff. And one of the kind of sessions with the counsellor just said, sometimes you just need to let it be. You just need to realize that you're having a shit day or you're depressed, and rather than you as the person who's depressed sit and think about, I know I should be exercising, I know I should be eating properly, I know I should be doing this. Like if you spoke to anybody who's depressed and kind of ask them, like, what makes you feel better, like what has an impact on your mental health in a positive way, they could probably reel off 10 or 15 things. They know that they should probably be doing that, but they just can't, because that's the nature of depression. It's this weight on them that says, I know I should be doing this, but I can't do it. And that is a vicious cycle that goes round and round. And the counsellor just said, well, one thing you need to be doing is just to let it be. Like, let it be. Like, appreciate that. You need to be present. This is how you are right now. We're not saying you're going to feel like this forever. You might not. You might feel like different in 10 minutes time. And then the other thing that's really kind of had a transformative experience with it is like almost the kind of science that sits behind a lot of depression and like your neural pathways. And it's a bit like a well-worn road or a path through a forest or whatever. It's very easy to follow the path through the forest, and you'll keep following that path because those neural pathways get stronger and stronger over a period of time. That pathway gets more and more worn, and you follow it. But certainly some of the stuff what's happened is it's just leveled that playing field, and it's been like, well, rather than follow this path which hasn't even been worn yet, you're on a total blank field. You choose which direction you want to go in, and that has made a huge difference.
Yeah,
that's probably a conversation for another time, but it's like those two things in alone certainly kind of resonate with me and have made a big difference over the last few weeks.
But it's also learning the other person, isn't it? And it's exactly the same with phase. That there has been times where I'm like, okay, I need to just leave it. I just need to leave it for today. And rather than moan about, oh, she doesn't love me, because it's whether BPD can keep on, she doesn't love me anymore, she hates me, and all that kind of that pity party. I'm like, fuck it, I'm going to go and play computer games with Geraldine. And
that's what.
And have my own Just Eat, but hopefully they won't knock the door so I can run outside and grab my own pizza before Faye notices.
I think that's what's so important about what Ian said, because I mean, whilst I understand completely what Cheryl and Ian are saying, I'm trying to think of it now from a point of view of somebody that you might not necessarily know as well.
Yeah.
Which I don't actually have the answer, because I'm trying to think about it as I'm sort of talking about it. But I think that's when it's very crucial, like Ian said, to try and sort of pick out what the next question might be and sit and listen. Because obviously, if you don't have that sort of relationship with somebody, and maybe you don't know the ins and outs, maybe they're just a work colleague and you sort of see them 5 days a week or 3 days a week or whatever it might be, you then don't know about their home life, you don't know anything about their past, you might not know what they do in their spare time. So I'm now trying to, in my head, work out what the best sort of protocol would be with somebody that you might not necessarily have that binding relationship with, who you do fully understand. And then again, like I said earlier, I think that's when it becomes a little bit more crucial and a bit more careful of how you approach it. Sorry, I'm trying to think of it, but I just like.
Well, why you think I'm just going to give one example of somebody I've known professionally via the charity world for a number of years now. But there was 6 months ago or a year ago. It's a female. She was like forgetting stuff and acting weird, and just it was really weird. It just wasn't her professional standard. If she's watching this, you know what I mean, and I apologise. I think she watched most of them, and I was like, something's not right there. But I didn't know how to approach it, so I spoke to a trustee of that charity. I'm like, I don't want to grass this person up. I'm just, something's not right. I'm not saying she's crazy. I'm not sure. You probably know where this is going to end up going in a minute. I was just like, something. It's not the person who I'm used to speaking to. And the person starts laughing. She's going through the menopause, Dad. I didn't have a clue. So do you get what I mean? It's just
as soon as you started speaking, I was going to say, how old was she? The second you started speaking, because when you look at what menopause is, it actually damages brain cells.
Yeah,
kids are going through brain damage, and if you don't get HRT for it, and I'm 43 and I'm perimenopausal, and I can see the impact of it. my sister is 3 years older than me and is menopausal, or it could actually make me cry this. And the reason she got on the HRT, she rang me and she said, I'm dangerous. I'm dangerous. Sorry, it's upset because I just love her so much. And she's a brilliant mum. She's got a 2-year-old and she's going through the menopause, and a 10-year-old who's got high neurodiversity. And I think her 2-year-old does too, and she does. And she just said, I feel like I'm a dangerous person right now. And I said, why don't we? And we'd spoken about it before. And that's the thing, women are, you know, dying by suicide because of this, and people that are having to exchange HRT in car parks still. You know, she's just run out of HRT and the doctor said there's nothing we can do. She's just been on it 6 months, like it's run out. So when you described what you were saying there, I was like, oh, I get it. And it's huge. So you know, but then sorry, I got maybe upset then. Just because it's women are typically not being supported through it by the NHS and by our systems. And when you look at the GPs, I know this is not about women, so I won't rattle on about it, but I could talk about this for a long time.
Well, funny enough, I do eventually want. I think I spoke to you. I do want to do a video about training men on the menopause. I don't know how we're going to do it. I think it's, but anyway,
I would love that. And the only thing I'll say is my partner. I am so relieved he is my partner, because he's the most caring human when it comes to all menstruation and menopause. And he's a brother. He has a brother, so not being brought up with women. I say to him, "What did I do to deserve you?" He's so kind and nurturing. But it starts with children. We have to educate children on this.
No, absolutely. But if I just go backwards, I'm not ignoring what you said. So
no, please do, because
I'll let you gather your thoughts as well. But I think it's in that circumstance with this part. I nearly said then in that I knew something wasn't right, but I also knew. I think I was man enough to go, actually, I'm not the right person to fix this or even ask them. So what I did do is in that circumstance, because I didn't know them that well, speak to somebody who knows them better than I did. And rather than saying, "Oh, Cheryl's going mental, what's wrong with her?" just say, "Have you noticed anything's wrong with Cheryl?" Just using an example
or whatever. And you know what's interesting? This takes you back to the top of your conversation that you were saying about if someone had cancer, would go, "What do the doctors say?" Yet with mental health or differences in people's behaviour, we think that we're the expert. But what you did there was say, "Is there an expert? Somebody who's better prepared than me or better experienced than me to manage this and be involved?" So actually you did what you're talking about. You are not guilty, sorry, of what you're talking about here. That is, refer to, if we don't feel empowered to be the right person for somebody, that's okay. You know, that's okay.
Exactly.
But just don't look the other way either.
I think that would definitely be a good topic to speak about. So there's quite a few things. Like I grew up with a mother and somebody else as well that was close to me that had endometriosis. And again, that's something that's obviously not a lot of people are well educated on. And when you dive a bit deeper into that, like I know quite a fair bit about it now, that's something that's also quite horrific for women to go through, and that often affects them in quite a vile way, if I should say. So I think another cool sort of trying to educate people would be a good shout, be a good idea.
Well, I think so, because the trouble is, I'm learning. I've had the crazes pretty much all my life, blah blah blah, and that stuff I can pretty much talk until the cows come home. But there's certain things I haven't lived. But when I speak to normally the older gent or the older lady, or whatever else, is normally it's like relationship breakdowns. I don't know if we're going completely on a tangent, but whatever. But it's like relationship breakdowns in the normally late 40s, 50s, and again, I don't want to offend anyone. I'm just going to say how through my perspective, the woman just went crazy for a few months, and then they end up splitting up because the bloke's feeling rejected. They don't love each other. They hate each other. Whatever, it doesn't really matter what it is. And then the relationship falls apart. I've seen not many, but I've seen some of them. They become friends a year or 2 years later again, and they're like, "Oh yeah, no, so I was just going through the menopause." But obviously
we could have talked about this earlier.
So I think going forward, I think it's something what we do want to do. I just don't know. I have reached out to people before, and there has been a couple of the ladies where they're just like, "Well, you should know this." I'm asking.
I don't think that's fair.
Unfair.
Why should you know that?
Yeah, but funny enough, there was one lady, she got quite hot on it. She was like, why does a men's mental health charity want to talk about menopause? It's just like,
I didn't get it.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just crazy. Like, how many relationships could that one video save?
Absolutely. Exactly.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
all men have women in their lives, even if it's not a relationship, it's your sister, it's your mother, it's your daughter. You know,
Exactly.
I want John to know more and more about this, because if you've got a son and a daughter, and we need to be the people that they feel like they can talk to, or not, you know, but if they want to, I want us to have the right information for them.
Yeah.
It's a big topic in the financial services world as well at the moment. Like there are big financial services companies that have dedicated presentations, dedicated events to just talk about this stuff because of the impact that it has. And if you think of it from a beyond the mental health kind of arena, if you like, it has significant impacts on women's career, has significant impact on their earnings. All this kind of stuff is massive. I feel like we've gone off on a tangent here, but
Oh, absolutely, I like it.
at the same time, I think it needs to be talked about. Like for me, I've got two boys, and Amy's got a boy and a little girl, and my perspective from having a little girl as a stepdaughter on life has changed significantly. I watch programs that I've watched time and time again very differently, because I'm like, that's disgusting. Like, why are these guys talking like this way? And it's incredible. Like the love that I've got for this little girl and how she's impacted my life in such a positive way, and having Amy who's very pro feminine and pro women's rights, as she should be. Like, I am on that fucking team all day long. And I just think it's I probably wouldn't have been unless they'd both been involved in my life. And like, there are people out there that maybe would be very different if this stuff was involved in their life, and seeing these videos and having those conversations.
Yeah.
Just want to quickly say, I've got a stepson, and he did for me what you're saying your stepdaughter did for you. I'm so honoured and privileged to have that little boy in my life. He's changed my world in terms of, I've never been a misandrist anywhere. I'm a feminist, but I've always been for fairness to all people all the time. But that boy's changed my whole life perspective. That could be another big topic.
That could be. There's loads
I could think of several topics. I mean, I'm just thinking now about what you were saying, Cheryl, you know, about us educating or being educated on it, you know, maybe earlier on. Is it something that potentially should be, you know, within school, you know, sort of the later years within school, sort of 15, 16, when sort of everything's changing, you know, is it something that should be brought up then? And is it something that not necessarily that we should be educated into finer detail, but maybe just mentioned? But
I think so.
Yeah. No, so just to bring the video back on that, because also drawing to a close as well, let's do it like this. So let's pick on you first, Ian.
Oh, here we go.
No, so if
do I need a strong gulp of coffee before you start?
No, exactly that. Already prepped there, isn't it? If somebody comes to you with some sort of life, or let's ignore mental health, because it's someone's in a bit of a pickle. If they approach you of like, life's a bit shit, doesn't matter what it is, what would you tell people to do? Did that make any sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it'd be the first question to me would be like, what can I do? What can I do to help?
Yeah.
And shut up. Because if it's what can I do to help? Would you like me to come to the doctors with you? Would you like me to go to the hospital? Would you like to go out for a walk? Would you like to eat healthy? Would you like to do this? Would you like to do that? You've straight away jumped into help mode.
Yeah.
And I think certainly the training I've got professionally and kind of what I do is to be able to listen and actively listen. It's not just about listening and let it kind of go in. It's listening and digesting that information. It's like, what can I do to help?
Yeah.
And manage the silence. Like, silence is incredibly awkward for people. It's incredibly difficult to sit there in silence in a room. But like, if someone's in that position and they want your help, then you need to just sit there and listen and be silent and take the time to do it. And sometimes, like, even if you haven't got the time to do it, like right there and then, you need to be completely honest and say, like, I really haven't got the time right now, but let's make some time to have this conversation, please. Because sometimes that is enough to just know that there's somebody there in their life. Like, it goes back to what I said earlier. It's that question, like, what can I do to help?
Yeah. No, so I'm gonna answer my own question, and we'll move on to Cheryl next. But with me on that one is just don't put the white coat on. Just don't put the white coat on. And do you know what? It's just, I think I think most of us got like we know each other pretty well. Here's an example. I remember when me and Cheryl started speaking, I told Cheryl I was scared of her. when we first started talking ages and ages ago. But I'm not going to
I remember.
But you get what I mean? But if you went to me with like, oh, okay, I'm having some sort of life pickle or whatever else, I would speak to you exactly the same as I did before. I just wouldn't go into doctor's mode. I just think it puts people off. And actually, I'm going to backtrack to what I said about the cancer topic. I've had a few friends who have had cancer, and there's one of them's been a trustee of here actually. There is a video about that, Steve. And when he told me, I was just like, I ain't got time for you to die, mate. Like how we're going to get through this one? We ain't got time for this. And we just took the piss. Do you get me? Obviously, you don't do that for just anybody in the office or whatever else. But it's about remembering to speak to that person how you'd normally speak to them in every day. Cheryl.
It's interesting because I live near a mental health hospital, so I walk my dog through that, and there's lots of people around that are patients of that mental health hospital that will stand and talk to you. It's really beautiful grounds, and depending upon the context and depending upon how someone would approach me, I just listen. So, and like I've been late and had to cancel meetings because I won't walk away from somebody, and I'll just sit in the woods. I'll just say, can you just let me send this message? Send a message, and I'll go, that sounds tough. If you want to tell me about it, you can tell me about it. How did that? And I'll just listen. And Benjamin, you mentioned earlier about what's the question to ask. I think it's literally to listen to what they've just said and respond to just that. Nothing hours before, nothing hours later, nothing trying to have a solution. Just what have they just said in that sentence, and respond to that, and nothing else.
That's a good answer, Benjamin. You've had loads of time to think about it, so come on.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think it's hard to top those two answers, but I mean, I'm sitting here from a point of coming from somebody that overanalyzes pretty much 99% of the situations that I'm in, regardless of what it being, whether it be discussing somebody about their potential mental health or washing up in the evening. So I said I find it very, very difficult to not go into that sort of that nurturing mode of where I do feel like I can potentially help. Coming from somebody that has a vast amount of experience from different parts of my life, I feel like I have more to offer than what I don't want to say a standard person, but somebody that hasn't had that experience. So I feel like I might be able to say something, or I might be able to engage with them in a completely different manner or a completely different way, where I feel like it might resonate with them better. Which is what I struggle to do, which is why I do try and get involved more so not. But listening from what Ian and Cheryl have both said, perhaps if I do just shut up and listen, then I might be able to necessarily give the correct advice, and I might be able to actually give them a better yeah, exactly. Sorry, I was just reading a comment. No, it's fine. Yeah, so perhaps if I do listen more, I might be able to sort of engage with them in the correct way. Maybe this particular question wasn't for me to give advice. Maybe this was for me to actually take on board, being one of the, I don't want to say younger ones of the group necessarily, but
you always make a point of that in every video, don't you?
I do. I like to make it very, very apparent. Yeah, I like to make it very apparent.
Can I respond to Benjamin there quickly? I know we're in. The only thing I want to say is the message that I just sent you was, I didn't mean it to disrupt you, sorry, but it was to say they came to you for a reason. So I think we almost can start to second guess ourselves and trip up. If you have experience and that person has come to you, they've come to you for that. So don't then go, oh, I can't speak now, I best sort of just listen. People have sought you out for that reason. So don't start like then trying to silence yourself and withhold yourself. Just give them what you've got. And you've obviously got lots of lived experience, and the fact that you think about things so much, I think that makes you a really considerate, kind person. So you'll wish you'd not got my contact now, because I might be reaching out to you.
No, it does. And I won't go off on a tangent because we are running out of time, but I think this was something that I was going to say earlier as well, when I think it's very, very, again, I keep using the word crucial and careful, but again, when you start engaging with somebody else and you start going down, the days or the weeks that you're constantly speaking to this person, to not necessarily try and help them, but like Ian said, just be there for them and let them know, you're then sort of in your subconscious, neglecting yourself as well, and you're not focusing on your own health. So I think there's a bit of a fine line as well, where you need to go, right, actually, no, do you know what, I need to continue with my own head, and like Ian said, if you haven't got the time for it, then just be honest with them in the first place. But it's been a learning curve for me. This one's been great. I've quite enjoyed this one.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, and then we are going to, and then I'm literally going to hit that button. But it's just, I think that's the key, that is the key, and it's a skill set I've had to learn through therapy. Is knowing when to say I'm not the right person to help you at the moment, or do it. I need to look after myself. But more crucially, it's a skill to learn that, and I fall foul sometimes. But it's also being, there's nothing wrong with doing that. Nothing at all. And I think society, I don't want to move into another topic, but I think society's training us that we must deal with it and you should do it. And actually, if your headspace isn't right, you're actually totally the wrong person to deal with it. And there's nothing wrong with looking after yourself within reason.
Agreed.
On that bombshell, I'm going to hit that unrecord button. I still don't know whether that's a word or not, but whatever.